In this episode, we're going to focus on miking the drums with a 4-mic setup. Before you start miking the drums, make sure the kit is tuned and free of buzzes and rattles. You can tame unwanted ringing sounds with dampening products such as gaffa tape and gel strips. As we mentioned in the previous episode, the dynamic close drum mics we're going to be using aren't going to pick up too much unwanted noise from the other instruments. This is also known as mic spill or bleed. This is because they'll be close to the loud sound sources of the kick drum and the snare. We'll be using condenser mics positioned overhead to capture the sound of the overall kit, but inevitably they may be sensitive enough to pick up some of the guitar sounds too. There are numerous different setups for recording drums, but we're using 4 microphones for this recording to show how to achieve a clean drum sound. We're going to address the 2 overhead mics positioning first. As mentioned before, these are the mics that capture more of the ambient natural sound of your drum kit being played in the room and help produce a clearer cymbal sound. Positioning our 2 overhead mics 6 feet above ground level and aimed down at the kit will help create a balanced sound for our drums. It's important that these 2 mics are equal distances from the kit to ensure the sound from the drums hits them at the same time and avoids unwanted phasing. As a rule of thumb to help with this, think 3-to-1. If the mics are positioned 2 feet above the cymbals, make sure they are 6 feet apart. You can monitor for mic phasing by having one signal in the monitor headphone mix and then fading the second in. The sound should remain full with plenty of bottom end as you do so. If there's phasing between the 2 mics and the sounds are cancelling each other out, adjust the positioning of the mics as necessary. The batter head is the side of the kick drum which is hit, and as a general rule, the closer your dynamic mic is positioned to the batter head, the more kick drum attack you'll get from the sound. Moving it further away from the batter head will give you a rounder sound. We're using a pillow inside the kick drum as a muffler too, and this helps reduce unwanted overtones. There are specialist drum products available to do this too. It's an optional method some players prefer to give a punchier, less boomy sound. From the top of the snare, position the second drum dynamic mic a couple of inches above and an inch from the edge of the snare. Positioning here helps to retain the sound of the drumstick impacting the snare. The further you move the mic away from this starting point, the more room air ambience and reverb you'll inevitably pick up. The closer you go, the more bottom end you'll add. Experiment to find the sound you feel is best for the recording, and make sure you feed back info and guidance to the drummer as you do so. For this session we're using an AKG mic kit, but a Shure SM57 is also a reliable, affordable dynamic mic for snare because it can handle the high sound pressure levels and mid-range frequencies well. Microphone spill from the hi-hat to the snare mic is a common problem with recording drums. You can help address this by making sure any other cardioid dynamic mic for the snare is directly facing away from the hi-hat. More importantly, it might also be a matter of your drummer being more sensitive with their hi-hat work to ensure it's not overly dominant, or even trying to move the hi-hat further away from the snare drum. Remember to experiment to fine-tune angles and make sure someone monitors the sound as you go along. Check the effects of each mic placement and feedback info to your drummer on how they might need to change their performance approach. Finally, it's important for the drummer, and indeed the band as a whole, to remember to allow for the vocals in the dynamics of their performances. Musicians often respond to the vocal in their performances live, so play with those vocals in mind, dropping down on certain sections to reflect the vocal lines. We're going to be overdubbing the vocals in a separate session later.